What if the most primal desire of your being held the key to your highest enlightenment, a secret whispered by ancient traditions and silenced by time? There is a powerful force pulsing within each of us, an energy that, due to its overwhelming nature, has often been misunderstood, repressed, and even demonized. It is sexuality. Throughout history, it has been viewed in various ways, as sin, as taboo, as a mere reproductive function, or as an animal instinct to be controlled. Rare were the moments and cultures that dared to explore its true depth, its intrinsic connection to the divine, to creation, to the very essence of the spirit. We have been taught to separate the body from the soul, pleasure from holiness, desire from spiritual elevation. But what if this separation were the great illusion, and the union of these two realms, sexuality and spirituality, were the path to wholeness and a power we cannot even imagine? Imagine an ancient tree. Its roots are deeply embedded in the earth, absorbing nutrients, anchoring the plant. Its branches, on the other hand, reach toward the sky, seeking sunlight, growing toward the infinite. The tree does not exist without its roots, nor without its branches. It is the perfect union of the earthly and the celestial. Similarly, we, as human beings, are that tree. Our roots lie in our vital energy, in our creative and reproductive force, our sexuality, and our branches stretch toward the transcendent, the divine, our spirituality. A full life does not lie in denying one part in favor of the other, but in the harmonious integration of both. Denying sexuality is like cutting the roots. Denying spirituality is like pruning the branches. Both actions prevent the tree from flourishing in its entirety. Human history is filled with attempts to understand and control this energy. In many ancient cultures, sexuality was celebrated as sacred. Think of pre-patriarchal, matriarchal civilizations, where fertility and feminine energy were revered as aspects of the divine. Fertility goddesses were worshipped, and sexual rituals could be a way to connect with the sacred, to invoke the abundance and vital force of nature. The sexual act was not only for procreation, but an expression of universal creative energy. It was a portal to mystical ecstasy, a way to experience unity with the divine. However, with the rise of certain patriarchal religions and philosophies, this view was gradually subverted. The body became sinful, carnal desire a temptation. Women, once revered for their connection to fertility, came to be seen as the source of original sin. Sexuality was relegated to the shadows, hidden, shamed. And in doing so, we severed a vital channel of energy, repressing a force that, if understood and directed, could elevate us to unimaginable levels of consciousness. The central question we seek to unravel is, what is the true connection between sexuality and spirituality, and why? Has this connection been hidden or distorted throughout history? And more importantly, how can we reclaim this wisdom to manifest a life of greater power, creativity, and wholeness? If you feel there is a greater truth about your own energy that needs to be unveiled, if your intuition whispers that there is an untapped power within you, then consider subscribing to the channel and engaging with the video. This is a journey that challenges dogmas and invites true freedom. Sacred sexuality is a concept present in various esoteric and mystical traditions. In Tantra, an ancient Indian philosophy, sexual energy, known as Kundalini, is seen as a latent force at the base of the spine that, when awakened and elevated through specific practices, can lead to spiritual enlightenment. The tantric sexual act, far from being merely physical, is a conscious ritual, a union of polarities, masculine and feminine, Shiva and Shakti, that aims to transcend individual pleasure and achieve a state of cosmic unity. Here, sexuality is not a distraction from spirituality, but a direct vehicle to it. Think of the story of Isis and Osiris in Egyptian mythology. After Osiris is dismembered, Isis, his sister wife, uses her magic to reassemble his pieces, including the phallus, symbolizing the restoration of fertility and creative power. Through this sacred union, she conceives Horus, the god who restores order. This narrative is a powerful allegory about the importance of reintegrating the sexual and creative power that has been fragmented and repressed. Fertility is not just physical. It is the fertility of the mind, the soul, the ability to generate new ideas, new projects, a new life. Modern psychology, in its deeper approaches, also begins to recognize the power of this energy. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, though initially focused on the repression of libido as a cause of neuroses, already pointed to the driving force of sexual energy in the human psyche. Carl Jung, in turn, expanded this view, seeing libido not only as sexual energy, but as a general psychic energy, a vital force that drives creativity, the search for meaning, and the process of individuation. For Jung, sexual energy was a powerful manifestation of the unconscious, and its integration was fundamental to the wholeness of the self. When this sexual energy is repressed or misdirected, it does not disappear. It manifests in other forms: anxiety, compulsions, addictions, creative blocks, dysfunctional relationships. It is like a dam trying to contain a powerful river. The pressure builds and the energy finds other outlets, often destructive ones. On the other hand, when this energy is understood, honored, and consciously channeled, it becomes an inexhaustible source of vitality. It fuels your passion, your creativity, your ability to connect deeply with others and with the divine. Sexuality, in this sense, is the driving force of your manifestation in the world. What is your first reaction to hearing about the connection between sexuality and spirituality? Do you feel resistance, curiosity, or a mix of emotions? The repression of sexuality is not just a moral or social issue, it is a fragmentation of the soul. When we deny this vital part of ourselves, we create an internal split that blocks the full flow of vital energy. It is like trying to breathe with only one lung. Life becomes limited, suffocated. This separation between the sacred and the sexual has a profound impact on our psychological well-being, our relationships, and our ability to manifest our true essence. Think of the chakras, the energy centers in the body, as conceptualized in yogic and Hindu traditions. The root chakra, Muladhara, and the sacral chakra, Svadhisthana, are directly associated with sexuality, creativity, security, and vitality. When there are blockages or repression in these centers, energy cannot flow freely to the higher chakras, which are associated with love, communication, intuition, and spiritual connection. It is like a ladder with damaged lower rungs. It becomes impossible to climb to the higher levels. Spirituality, without the foundation of integrated sexuality, becomes ethereal, ungrounded, and often superficial. What, then, prevents most people from exploring this deep connection, from transcending taboos and integrating their sexuality into their spiritual journey? The greatest mystery may lie in fear. Fear of the power of this energy, fear of judgment, fear of vulnerability, fear of losing control. Society and many religious doctrines have taught us to fear desire, to see it as a weakness that would divert us from the right path. But what if the true path lay in embracing this force, purifying it, and directing it toward elevation? The psychology of the shadow, developed by Carl Jung, offers a powerful lens to understand this dynamic. Sexuality, when repressed or viewed only through its dark side, becomes part of our shadow, a complex of characteristics and desires we deny in ourselves. This shadow does not disappear. It operates in the unconscious, manifesting through destructive patterns, projections, shame, and guilt. The denial of sacred sexuality is, in essence, the denial of a vital and powerful part of who we are. And as long as this part remains in the shadow, we cannot achieve wholeness and enlightenment. Think of the biblical story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The fall is often interpreted as a sinful sexual act that led to expulsion from paradise and the introduction of suffering into the world. However, some mystical and Gnostic interpretations suggest that the forbidden fruit was not literal but rather knowledge. The knowledge of one's own divine nature and creative power, which includes sexual energy. Paradise was lost when humanity was taught to fear its own essence, its own body, and its ability to create and connect. The veil of shame and fear covered the truth that sexuality is a manifestation of the divine. The mystery is, how then can we pierce this veil? How can we reclaim our sexuality from the shadow of fear and guilt and elevate it to its rightful place as a portal to spirituality? It is not about reckless indulgence, but about the conscious cultivation of vital energy. For many ancient cultures, sexual energy was not something to be spent aimlessly, but a powerful force to be circulated, transmuted, and elevated. In Taoism, for example, specific sexual practices aim to preserve and circulate the Jing energy, vital essence, to promote longevity, health, and spiritual development. The union of yin and yang, the feminine and masculine polarities, is seen as a path to cosmic balance and harmony. Here, the sexual act is not an end in itself, but a means to a greater end, union with the Tao. What happens when this energy is integrated? It becomes the driving force of your life. Your creativity expands exponentially, your intuition sharpens, your relationships deepen, and your ability to manifest your desires in the material and spiritual world rises. The person who integrates their sexuality and spirituality radiates a magnetic vitality, a presence that is both grounded and transcendent. This person is no longer divided. They are whole. What judgments or fears about sexuality do you carry, and how might they be blocking your creative and spiritual energy? What would your life be like if you allowed your sexuality to be a sacred expression of your being, rather than something to be hidden or repressed? The transmutation of sexual energy is the turning point in this journey. It is not about denying or repressing the energy, but about elevating it, directing it toward higher purposes. Think of the analogy of water. It can be a stagnant swamp, repressed energy, a chaotic and destructive current, uncontrolled energy, or it can be channeled into a hydroelectric plant to generate light and power, transmuted energy. Sexual energy is your most potent vital force. It can be used to create life, physical, or to generate a life of creativity, purpose, and spiritual elevation. How is this done? Through conscious practices. Meditation focused on the base of the spine, where Kundalini is said to reside, can help awaken this energy. Specific breathing exercises, pranayama, can direct the flow of energy through the body. Visualization practices and clear intention can infuse desire with a spiritual purpose. In Taoism, the microcosmic orbit is a technique that circulates sexual energy through the body's energy channels, transforming it into spiritual energy. This is not abstract mysticism. It is an inner technology for the human being. This transmutation is not exclusive to Eastern traditions. In various streams of Western mysticism, such as Kabbalah, the union of the Sephirot, especially those associated with the foundation, Yesod, linked to sexuality, and the crown, Keter, linked to the divine, is a path to integration and ascension. The very idea of the tree of life as a map of human consciousness suggests that all energies, including the most earthly ones, are part of a sacred path to wholeness. The final mystery that many fail to grasp about the connection between sexuality and spirituality is that it is not just about the individual, but about collective transformation. If the repression of sexuality created a matrix of guilt, shame, and disempowerment that has affected humanity for millennia, then its conscious liberation and integration have the power to dismantle this matrix on a much broader level. Think of societies that honored the sacred feminine and sexuality as a divine force. They were often more equitable, more connected to nature, and less prone to war and domination. The repression of sexuality became a tool of social and political control. As a people disconnected from their own vital force is easier to manipulate and subjugate. Reconnecting with sacred sexuality is a revolutionary act of personal and collective empowerment. What does this integration mean for your relationships? It means they become more authentic, deeper, more spiritual. When sexual energy is honored and channeled with love and consciousness, the act of intimacy transforms from mere physical pleasure into an experience of soul fusion, where two consciousnesses unite to experience divine unity. It is not just the union of bodies, but the union of spirits. True intimacy, then, becomes a spiritual practice in itself. Relationship psychology shows us that many marital or interpersonal problems arise from repressed or poorly expressed sexual energy, or from the confusion between desire and love. When sexuality is seen as sacred, it can be used to heal wounds, deepen bonds, and elevate the consciousness of both partners. Communication becomes more transparent and vulnerability becomes a strength. Is there an area of your life where your creative energy feels stagnant? And have you considered that this might be connected to your relationship with your own sexuality? How can you begin to honor your sexual energy as a sacred force, regardless of your relationship status or orientation? The final revelation is that the connection between sexuality and spirituality is not an esoteric concept for the few, but a universal truth that lies at the core of your own existence. It is the recognition that the force that creates life on a physical level is the same force that can create your reality, manifest your dreams, and elevate you to a state of enlightened consciousness. The body is not an obstacle to the spirit. It is the temple where the spirit manifests and experiences itself. Sexuality is not a temptation. It is a portal to the divine. When you integrate your sexuality and spirituality, you become a whole, radiant being living in alignment with your deepest truth. You are no longer fragmented or in conflict. Shame dissolves, guilt transforms into understanding, and fear gives way to passion and freedom. You manifest a new way of being human, a being that is both earthly and celestial, carnal and divine. And in doing so, you not only transform your own life, but contribute to the elevation of collective consciousness, undoing millennia of repression and illusion. If this deep conversation about the connection between sexuality and spirituality has resonated with your soul and sparked a new understanding within you, I invite you to share your thoughts. Leave the word sacred in the comments to let me know how this video helped you reconnect with your deepest truth about this vital energy. Like this video if it inspired a new perspective. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery, and share it with someone who is also seeking wholeness and integration.